I deeply regret that kiss now, more than anything I've ever regretted in my life. My husband Andrew won't touch me anymore, and the pain of his rejection cuts deeper each day. I've been following this message board for quite some time, but I've never had the courage to post until now. If someone had told me 3 months ago that my life would turn out like this, I would have laughed and called them a liar. But here I am, having destroyed my own marriage with my foolish actions, exhausted from the weight of my mistakes, desperately wishing I could turn back time to when things were perfect between us. All I want is for Andrew to forgive me, though I'm not sure I deserve it. I'm reaching out to this message board, hoping that someone might offer advice or guidance to help me through this nightmare. It all happened one night, when I went drinking with friends and kissed another man, a moment of weakness that my husband discovered. Since that day, Andrew has become like a stranger in our own home, refusing to even brush against me as we pass in the hallway. This is my terrible mistake, one that keeps me awake at night, staring at the ceiling and wondering how I could have been so foolish. My name is Rachel, and I'm 25 years old. I've been married to Andrew, who's 24, for 2 wonderful years. At least they were wonderful until I ruined everything. Ours was a whirlwind romance, the kind you read about in novels. We met at a friend's birthday party about 3 years ago, and I fell head over heels for him the moment our eyes met across the room. We exchanged numbers that night, and soon we were texting constantly, getting to know each other's souls. 2 days after the party, we went on our first date, and within weeks, we were officially a couple, completely wrapped up in each other. When my apartment lease expired, moving in together seemed as natural as breathing. Andrew came from a wealthy family, while I grew up counting every penny. It was like a modern-day fairy tale. The difference in our backgrounds was stark. He had never known financial struggle, while I knew it intimately. After just 1 year of dating, we got married, with his parents generously offering to pay for the wedding on the condition that I sign a prenuptial agreement. I didn't mind signing it then. Andrew wanted it, and I wanted to make him happy, so I agreed without hesitation. True to their word, his parents gave us the most beautiful wedding I could have imagined. Andrew showed his love through gifts, everything from expensive jewelry to handmade treasures. He took such joy in giving. He poured his love into every aspect of our life together, making me feel like the most cherished woman in the world. As I mentioned, he loved giving presents, and when I was stressed or tired, he would massage my shoulders until the tension melted away. He even did the cooking and about 90% of the housework, always insisting it was his pleasure to take care of me. On top of all that, he was the sole provider for our household, carrying the entire financial burden without complaint. I'm telling you all this so you can understand just how freely and generously Andrew gave of himself, and to show you the magnitude of my betrayal. He did everything of his own accord, and we were both happy with our roles in the marriage. Overall, our married life was beautiful. We were deeply in love, physically intimate, and completely in sync with each other. Though we didn't have children yet, we talked about starting a family someday, dreaming of the little ones we would raise together. Our marriage was not a fairy tale, but it was a beautiful reality that we built together. Andrew and I fit together like perfectly matched puzzle pieces, each completing the other's empty spaces. Though we had our ups and downs, every argument ended in reconciliation, and I felt each challenge only strengthened our bond. The most beautiful aspect of our relationship was how we supported each other through thick and thin. Andrew was my biggest cheerleader, always encouraging me to chase my dreams, and I stood by his side when times were tough. We dreamed of building a family together and growing old side by side, such a simple yet beautiful future that seemed within our grasp. But then I made that terrible mistake that would change everything. Now, looking back, I question whether our love was as strong as I had always believed. Andrew and I were like 2 sides of the same coin, so different yet perfectly complementary. We balanced each other in ways that seemed almost miraculous at the time. Andrew was the quiet, introspective type who found peace in the silence of our home, content with his small circle of friends and finding comfort in family time. In contrast, I was the social butterfly, always buzzing with energy and enthusiasm. I thrived on meeting new people, drawing strength from the warmth of human connections and the excitement of lively conversations. Yet somehow, despite our differences, we fell deeply in love. His calming presence tempered my extroverted nature, while my enthusiasm brought a spark of excitement to his structured world. But I have to admit, things weren't always perfect between us. Andrew wasn't fond of most of my friends, especially the new ones, and sometimes he didn't like me going out alone. I don't think of him as controlling. Now I understand he had valid reasons for being wary of my friends. 3 weeks ago, we attended Andrew's sister's wedding. It was held in a beautiful venue in the suburbs, away from the city's hustle and bustle. The whole place was breathtaking, and since I was close to Andrew's sister, I served as one of her bridesmaids. The wedding venue had this magical quality about it, with beautiful scenery and a serene atmosphere that made everything seem enchanted. The ceremony itself was overflowing with love and joy, and you could see how deeply the bride and groom loved each other. Being part of the wedding was truly a special experience for me. It made me reflect on love and family, reminding me of my own love for Andrew and the importance of cherishing what we had. I celebrated Andrew's sister and her new husband's union with all my heart. 2 days after the wedding, some friends invited us for a night out. Although Andrew and I didn't share many mutual friends, the person who invited us to drink was someone we both knew well. Andrew was exhausted from all the socializing at the wedding. So he declined the invitation, choosing to rest at home instead. He told me I could go if I wanted to, so I decided to join our friends alone. Andrew kindly agreed to my going out, telling me to call if I needed a ride home. Since I planned to drink, I arranged for a friend to pick me up instead of driving. At the pub, we had what seemed like the perfect evening. More friends showed up as the night went on, and we chatted and laughed, enjoying each other's company. It felt wonderful to break free from our daily routine, and I was genuinely happy I decided to go out. As the alcohol flowed, I became more relaxed, and someone suggested playing Spin the Bottle. Normally, I would have refused outright, but my friends kept insisting I join in. Reluctantly, I agreed to participate, though something in my gut told me I shouldn't. I rationalized that since the other players were married too and didn't seem concerned, I shouldn't worry either. When my turn came, the game had escalated with friends taking longer kisses and making bolder moves, and caught up in the moment, I kissed one of the men, just once, but that was all it took. Thankfully, the bottle didn't point to me again after that. I sat there watching the chaos unfold, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with what I'd done. By the end of the night, many of us were quite drunk, and my friend had to drive me home. When I arrived, Andrew looked surprised at how intoxicated I was, but he didn't say a word about it. He made me tea and helped me to bed, showing the kindness that I would soon betray. The next morning, despite my hangover, Andrew stayed by my side to comfort me. He told me to take the day off work and offered to make me breakfast. His thoughtfulness touched my heart deeply, making what I'd done feel even worse. I lay in bed, unable to shake the memories of the previous night. The guilt about the kiss weighed heavily on my conscience. I didn't want to keep secrets from Andrew, but I convinced myself this wasn't something he needed to know. To me, it was just a meaningless kiss in a stupid game. I was drunk, and nothing more had happened, or so I told myself. I struggled with whether to tell him, but ultimately decided to keep it to myself. I wanted to bury it in the past and forget it ever happened. I felt grateful it hadn't gone any further than a kiss. I justified my silence by telling myself that some of my married friends had done worse things while drunk and surely wouldn't tell their partners either. I promised myself never to drink that much again. The hangover and guilt weren't worth it at all. Andrew and I had breakfast together and cuddled up to watch a movie. When the movie ended, he started playing his video games, acting as if it were just another normal day. Since I've never been a fan of video games, I usually let Andrew play as much as he wants. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my phone, my heart still heavy from the events of that wild night. Given how crazy the night had been, I expected to see plenty of messages from friends. When I opened our group chat, my blood ran cold. One of our more thoughtless friends had recorded everything and posted the video right there in the chat. Although Andrew was in the group chat too, he rarely checked it, which gave me a momentary sense of false security. My hands trembled as I watched the footage, seeing myself in close-up kissing another man. It felt like watching a stranger wearing my face. I wasn't the only one who'd acted inappropriately that night, as other friends had gotten carried away too. Some of our friends thought it would be amusing to show us the evidence of our drunken behavior the next day. At that moment, I foolishly believed that most members of the group chat hadn't seen it yet. To my horror, I discovered that several friends, including Andrew's best friend, had already seen and saved the video before it could be deleted. That's when everything went from bad to worse. Andrew's best friend, whom I'd never quite gotten along with, forwarded the video directly to him. I had no idea about any of this until Andrew burst into our bedroom, his face contorted with rage, clutching his phone like a weapon. I felt my entire body go numb, as if I'd been dunked in ice water. In my naivety, I'd thought everything would be fine once the video was deleted. The weight of regret crushed me as I wished I'd never gone out that night. I desperately tried to explain that I was drunk and it was just a stupid game, but my words fell on deaf ears. The more I tried to explain, the more his anger seemed to grow, like adding fuel to a fire. I could see the deep wound in his eyes, raw and bleeding beneath his anger. This incident had clearly reinforced all his doubts about me and my friends. He called me foolish for drinking so much and said he didn't know if he could ever forgive me. His words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me breathless and broken. The realization that I had disappointed my husband and betrayed his trust felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I tried to apologize and explain how wrong I knew I'd been, but Andrew wouldn't listen to anything I had to say. His fury was overwhelming, and every word he spoke cut deeper than the last. I couldn't stop the tears of shame and regret from flowing down my face. To be honest, I felt a burning anger toward Andrew's best friend who sent the video and the friend who recorded it. They had betrayed my trust and dealt a devastating blow to my marriage. The situation felt hopeless, and I had no idea how to begin fixing what I'd broken. After our argument, Andrew packed a suitcase, telling me he needed time to think. He said he couldn't stand to be around me right then, and needed space. I was left speechless, unable to find the words to convince him to stay. All I could do was nod in resigned acceptance, my heart breaking with each passing second. He left, and I later learned he had gone to stay at his best friend's house. Those 3 days he spent there felt like an eternity. During that time, I tried everything I could think of to get him to come home. I sent countless messages, but he maintained his distance, like an impenetrable wall between us. I didn't have the courage to involve his family in our problems. I knew they were strongly against divorce, and I feared their harsh judgment once they learned of my mistake. However, I confided in his brother, whom I was close to, and he reached out to Andrew on my behalf. After 3 days, Andrew finally came home, a small glimmer of hope in my darkness. Though he seemed calmer than when he left, the tension between us was thick enough to cut with a knife. It was painfully clear that this incident had left deep scars on our relationship, and rebuilding trust would take more time than I had imagined. Despite everything, I foolishly clung to the belief that we could overcome this crisis. But soon, I noticed Andrew deliberately creating distance between us, like a ship slowly drifting away from its harbor. He began sleeping in the guest room every night, refusing to return to our bedroom no matter how much I pleaded. It was as if an invisible wall had been erected between us, one that no amount of begging or reasoning could break down. The emotional distance grew alongside the physical one, like parallel canyons getting deeper each day. The loving massages he used to give me when I was stressed became a thing of the past. He stopped cooking altogether, another piece of our life together falling away. He buried himself in his work, spending more and more time at the office, using it as an escape from our broken home. Watching the man I loved, my partner in life, slip away from me was like having my heart torn apart piece by piece. I felt lost and desperately alone, like a child abandoned in a strange place. I had no idea how to bridge the growing gap between us or how to repair our shattered relationship. Every attempt I made to reach out to him, to close the widening chasm between us, felt like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. It was then that I finally understood just how much effort Andrew had been putting into maintaining our relationship all along. He had been the one reaching out, doing everything possible to keep our bond strong, while I had taken it all for granted. I had never properly appreciated all he had done for me, treating his efforts as if they were simply expected. Now that he had stopped doing the housework and all the little things he used to do, I realized the enormous burden he had been carrying. He had been the bridge in our relationship, and now that he refused to play that role anymore, we were left with an uncrossable divide. When I tried to take over the household chores, I found myself overwhelmed and discouraged by tasks I had never bothered to learn. Our house felt impossibly large for just 2 people, and the list of things that needed to be done seemed endless. I tried to sleep in the guest room with him, desperate to show I wanted to be by his side, but Andrew firmly refused. He told me he still couldn't get over what I had done, and needed time and space to process everything. I kept wondering how much time he needed, and what it would take to restore our relationship to what it once was. Consumed by guilt and sorrow, I was trying everything I could think of to make amends. I even started making him lunch boxes, something I'd never done before, hoping to show how sorry I was, but nothing seemed to make any difference. That's why I turned to this message board for help. I'd heard it could be helpful for dealing with relationship problems, and I hoped someone might offer advice on how to bridge the growing gap between us. The thought of this situation continuing forever terrifies me. My husband is no longer the caring, gentle soul I married. He's become cold and distant, making me feel like I'm living with a stranger. He feels more like a familiar roommate than my husband now. My heart feels like it's being torn apart, and I'm at a complete loss about what to do. I'm terrified this might end in divorce. I would appreciate any advice at all. Update: Hello, it's been quite some time since my initial post. Many of you might remember me. I'm the one who came here seeking advice when my marriage was falling apart after I kissed someone while drunk. To be honest, I never thought I'd be updating this post. After my initial post, I received many messages asking about what happened afterward. So, I'm here to share an update. First, I want to express my deepest gratitude to everyone who offered advice and support. Your words were a tremendous source of comfort during that difficult time. Many of you suggested that communication could help solve our problems and encouraged me to have an honest conversation with my husband. For several weeks after that, nothing changed. Andrew remained distant and indifferent, as if he'd erased me from his life. Knowing something had to be done, I finally gathered the courage to have a serious talk with him. I told him we couldn't continue like this and suggested marriage counseling as a way to save our relationship. Though Andrew was initially hesitant about counseling, he eventually agreed to give it a try. However, he also said he thought divorce might be the better option. Those words hit me like a physical blow, but I couldn't ignore his feelings. I realized that if he truly believed separation was best for us, forcing him to stay would only hurt him more, so I agreed to divorce on the condition that we try counseling first. He accepted this compromise, and we began seeing a professional counselor together. During our counseling session, Andrew revealed that everything changed the moment he saw that video of me kissing another man. He told me it was as if his love for me had vanished in an instant, like a candle being snuffed out. Though he apologized for any pain he'd caused me, he made it crystal clear that he could never forgive what I'd done. No matter how much it hurt, I had to accept his decision, like swallowing the bitterest medicine. The counseling sessions became a revelation for both of us, bringing to light many issues that had been simmering beneath the surface of our marriage. In these sessions, Andrew finally confessed that he had always felt anxious about my social life and friendships. His confession hit me like a physical blow to the chest. He had never once expressed these feelings before, keeping them locked away inside. If only he had shared these concerns earlier, I would have made every effort to address his worries. But his silence had created an invisible canyon between us that grew wider with each passing day. He kept coming back to the shock of seeing that video, like picking at a wound that wouldn't heal. The video, he explained, had shattered his image of me and inflicted a deep, lasting pain. He said it felt as though a part of his heart had been irreparably broken, like a precious vase that could never be made whole again. Andrew then revealed how he had always been the one working to maintain our relationship. He felt he had been the one taking initiative, making plans, and moving our relationship forward, like a captain steering a ship alone. He confessed that despite all his efforts, he often felt unappreciated and that his love for me went unrequited. Hearing these words was like daggers to my heart. Deep down, I knew every word he spoke was true, and that truth cut deeper than any knife. I had taken his efforts for granted, foolishly assuming he enjoyed doing everything for us. Now I could see how my lack of effort and initiative had created tension between us, like a slowly tightening rope ready to snap. Though I loved Andrew deeply, I had never shown it in ways that reached his heart, simply because I hadn't realized how important that was. This was a harsh reality to face, like looking into a mirror and seeing my true self for the first time. I apologized to him from the depths of my soul. I tried to explain how I had misunderstood his actions all along. I had simply assumed he enjoyed doing everything for us, never making an effort to reciprocate his devotion. Though I poured out my heart and promised to change, Andrew thanked me for my efforts, but firmly stated he could never forget the kiss. His decision to divorce remained unchanged, solid as a mountain. I had hoped that my sincere apology and deep remorse might make him reconsider, but he stood firm in his resolve. Though I didn't know what would happen in court, I decided to do everything in my power to make the divorce proceedings as easy as possible for him. It was a painful reality to face, but I had to respect his feelings and decisions. Andrew gave me a week to move out of our home. That was enough time for me to pack up my life and move forward. I'm grateful that we've been able to handle everything amicably, like mature adults finding peace in the aftermath of a storm. I want to express my deepest gratitude to everyone who supported me through this difficult journey. Your kindness and understanding meant more to me than words could ever express. The beautiful memories Andrew and I shared, and the love we once had, will forever remain treasured in my heart, like precious photographs in an album. Though I never expected our marriage to end this way, I've come to see it as the beginning of a new chapter in my life. It's been 6 months since I left Andrew's house, and I've moved into a small apartment, trying to rebuild my life from scratch. At first, it was terrifying, like learning to walk again after years of depending on someone else's strength. But surprisingly, this independent life has given me an unexpected strength, like a flower breaking through concrete. Though my parents urged me to come home, I chose to stand on my own 2 feet, and now I'm working as an assistant at a marketing company, where every dollar I earn, though modest, feels like a victory. I still keep in touch with Andrew's sister, and when she sent me pictures of her newborn baby last month, I cried at the sight of that angel-like face. though it hurt knowing I wouldn't be an aunt to this precious child, I discovered I could still genuinely rejoice in her happiness. Through mutual friends, I heard that Andrew has cut ties with his best friend who spread the video that night. Apparently, this friend recently caused a scandal at work and lost the trust of Andrew's parents too, but I'll keep my thoughts to myself about karma. At work, I've found a dear friend in my colleague Sarah, whose similar past experiences and blend of gentleness and strength have become my beacon of hope. Last weekend, we went to the beach together, and her words still echo in my mind over the sound of the waves. She told me that making mistakes doesn't make me a bad person. What matters is what we learn and how we grow from them. Now I have a new dream, to someday launch my own brand, and I'm taking small steps toward that goal while growing as a professional. Andrew will always hold a special place in my memories, but now I'm focusing on finding my own happiness, and when I'm ready to love again, I'll nurture that relationship with more honesty and care than ever before. Through this experience, I've learned that true strength isn't about being perfect. It's about having the courage to acknowledge our weaknesses and mistakes, and growing from them. To everyone on this message board, your support helped me weather this storm, and I hope to someday be the helping hand for someone else going through similar struggles. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns, but these detours aren't always dead ends, they can be new beginnings. Tomorrow, I'll take another step forward, this time on my own 2 feet, toward whatever destiny has in store for me.